Columbia University professor admits to using heroin for his work-life balance. Isn't heroin illegal? Shouldn't he be fired? Shouldn't he lose his job for that? It's not like he admitted to smoking pot, which most of these left fucking leaning libtard hippie professors, which if they teach at Columbia University, pretty good chance they're a hippie, uses. Big whoop-de-doo da, I smokes some of the ganjas. Big fucking deal. But heroin? That's a really hard drug, isn't it? You gotta put that shit on a spoon. You gotta use a lighter to melt it. It's caustic. I mean, you have to boil it, and then you shoot it into your veins at just below boiling point. Holy shit! I mean, that's some pretty hard drug. I don't think that drugs get any harder than that. I did hear about this one drug called croc, because when you take it, it turns your skin hard, like the scales on a crocodile. I guess that would be harder than heroin, taking something that turns into a fucking crocodile, but heroin's pretty hard. Okay, so here's the professor that is shooting himself up with heroin. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got dreadlocks, black guy. Not surprised. Isn't that interesting? I wonder if he would be able to get away with this if he was white. I wonder if that fat white dude with the neck beard sitting next to him would be able to get away with admitting he uses heroin recreationally. I wonder if that white guy could get away with that. I bet you couldn't. But supposedly white people's have privilege is. Yeah, okay. There you go. There's the face of modern academia. Hedonist scumbags who shoot themselves up with junk and remain on the job because, guess what? He's got tenures. I've got the tenures. I could do whatever I wants. I could even admit that I like little boys. They couldn't fire me. Yeah, there you go. So interesting. Anyway, before I get into this story, I would like to ask those of you out there that like and appreciate my content to go check out my website, therealistphilosopher.com. That is therealistphilosopher.com, and consider making a donation by scrolling down to the bottom of the page. You will find 3 donation options. Number 1, my Bitcoin wallet address. Number 2, my Cash App. And number 3, my Patreon, which is a per-piece platform. And I post about 8 pieces a month. So if you donate $1, that's $8 a month, 50 cents, $4 a month. It's up to you how much you donate. Any amount is greatly appreciated and welcome. So go check that out, therealistphilosopher.com. And also, be sure to follow me on BitChute, which is where the majority, nay, all of my content eventually ends up. You'll find over 1,200 pieces there to date. BitChute.com/therealistphilosopher. That's BITCHUTE.com/the realist philosopher. Okay, back to the story. So Columbia University, which is the birthplace of socialism, communism, Marxism in America, has a professor who admits to openly using heroin for his work-life balance. The fuck does that mean? Seems like everybody these days is using the term work-life balance to justify pretty much anything they want. I go out at night when the streets are empty, and I drive drunk, 'cause it's for my work-life balance, yo. I find it so relaxing to skid all over the fucking place and turn left, turn right, cross multiple lanes, almost run into walls and shit, because, it's for my work-life balance. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you can be a danger to the rest of us. Literal danger, not just you're not wearing a mask, you're going to kill grandma, but an actual danger, like run over a 3-year-old because you're driving drunk, because it helps me relax and have a better work-life balance. Now this guy is fucking shooting up heroin. And by the way, I think all drugs should be legal. You should be able to sell heroin over the counter. Little tiny little boiling spoon in the package. You should be able to buy prepackaged heroin. For $5.99, you get a hit of heroin, a boiling spoon, a lighter, and a needle. And a little cotton swab to act as the filter, which you probably won't need because, if heroin was available over the counter, it would be 100% pure, so there'd be no impurities. But anyway, Sure, go hog wild. Make all this shit legal. Don't give it away. Don't give away fucking needles though, like they do in fucking San Francisco. But sure, make it as legal as you want. I don't give a fuck. But Jesus Christ, it should still be a stigma attached to it. Now they're removing all the stigma that is attached with being a junkie. By the way, not too long ago, this stuff was legal in America. You'd have heroin dens all over the place. Sure, you want to shoot up? Fine with me. I don't care, honestly. But I do not think that this will add to your credibility as a professional educator. In fact, it should take away from it. But instead, there should be no stigmas at all. Unless you're conservative. Now, that's a huge stigma. Apparently. The left is always talking about how stigma's bad. Yeah, for everything they believe, obviously. So the professor added that he first tried heroin 6 or 7 years ago, and that at the time he was already a tenured professor who was well over 40 years old. Well, that's weird, isn't it? So you got a black man here. He's got a lot of white in his hair. That can probably be attributed to all the heroin he's using, which prematurely ages you. And he started using heroin over the age of 40 after he already had tenure. Wow. So he's got bad judgment, not much self-respect. He clearly doesn't think his body is a temple, yo. Not a very responsible individual. Yeah, that's somebody I won't teach my kids. No. So my heroin use is as recreational as my alcohol use. That's another totally useless, pointless fucking drug that'll mess you up big time. Like vacation, sex, and the arts, heroin is one of the tools that I use to maintain my work-life balance as a hedonist. My entire life is about seeking pleasure. Apparently. Yeah. No legacy. What are you leaving behind when you die? Lots and lots of used needles and lots of fuck buddies. Great. What a life, pal. Yeah. Sex and drugs and rock and roll. Wow. You would think as a professional educator, supposed professional educator, that he would care something about a legacy and educating people. But it seems to me that his main priority is getting high and having sex. Interesting. So, yeah, it's one of the tools I use to maintain my work-life balance, said Hart in his book entitled Drug Use for Grown-Ups. Are there a lot of grown-up drug users, though? Aren't they all dead by 40? We try to tell you right there it's not a good idea to use. You don't see too many old drug users, right? Usually if you do, they're all hagged out, look like the Crypt Keeper. Like if it's a woman, she's like 85 pounds, and she wants to give you a blowjob, and she says it's going to be great because she has no teeth. So she can use her gums as well. Best blowjob you ever had. Pass. Pass, you scarecrow-looking motherfucker. Same with the dude, right? He's 100 pounds. Same problem, no teeth, only he's not able to get by giving cheap blowjobs. Does this guy worry about where he's going to be at 80? If he's going to make it to 80? Apparently not. Drug use for grown-ups, chasing liberty in the land of fear. Well, you're definitely chasing the dragon, that's for fucking sure. By the way, isn't heroin one of the most addictive drugs out there? Isn't it like more and more difficult to get high? So the longer you take it, the more resistance, more immunity you build up, so the more you have to actually take, which is not very good for you. Apparently he doesn't worry about that, or his health, or much else, except getting his next hit. Yeah, but he can be a good, responsible educator that can teach kids, that can teach the next generation to think for themselves. He's a libtard, so that's unlikely. Hart, who is a professor of psychology and neuroscience at Columbia, explains in his book why he believes all drugs should be legal. Oh, I believe they should be legal too. I also believe that you should be able to be judged negatively for using them and be fired from your job if your boss finds out you do use them because, you know, it can compromise your judgment. And somebody teaching the next generation of children who are supposedly going to be running the world, who is a drug addict, is probably a bad idea. Choices have consequences, yo. Yeah, I'm sure he wouldn't push that. I'm sure he's not that much of a libertarian that he would advocate for employers having the freedom to discriminate in regards to who they hire or fire. Of course, he's got tenure, so he don't have to worry. This notion that people are not going to use drugs, that's silly and adolescent. Yeah, the professor told Insider. That's what this book is about, being grown up. Are you, though? I mean, you talk about how your life revolves around sex and drugs and rock and roll, i.e. art. I doubt he's sitting around shooting up heroin, looking at fucking Monets and Renoirs and shit. Oh, he's probably listening to heavy metal while he does so. And then going out and bebopping around at one of those fucking raves that has mostly 20-year-old kids. He's trying to recapture his youth. Lovely. Yeah, you sound like such a grown-up, pal. Yeah, you're making such good, responsible decisions. Give me a fucking break. Hart added that his family supports his recreational heroin use. Do they now? Are they all drug addicts too? I bet they do. And insists that he continues to meet his responsibilities as an academic, husband, father, and taxpayer. Oh, that's a lovely example you're setting for your kids. Do you want your kids to use heroin too? Are you okay with that? Oh, I mean, I'm sure he probably walks around the house smoking fucking marijuana, but I wonder if he walks around with a tourniquet tied around his arm, shooting up heroin all day. Do you let your kids see that? Of course, he's written this book, which his kids probably already know about and have read. They probably already know his stance on the subject. So, okay. So you're automatically, or at least tacitly, encouraging your kids to use heroin. That's great. Great. You're father of the year, man. Of course, in this day and age, it seems that the more irresponsible you are, the more you get lauded by the left. The most important thing we have emphasized as parents is just try and live like the person that you think you are. What if I think I'm a tree? Do I live like a tree? Do I go dig a hole and put my feet in the hole and then fill the hole in, and I'm just going to live off of the moisture in the ground, and that my feet are going to just magically suck the nutrients out of the ground? A moral, compassionate, global citizen. He's a communist. Global citizen. I'm all about diversity, so I want no borders so that everybody becomes homogenous. They all fuck until we're all one color, one culture, and then we have zero diversity. Hart told Insider, my family would expect me to stand up on behalf of the people who have been castigated for using drugs. You mean the majority of the people who use drugs that are living in homeless shelters or living in tents or sleeping on stoops, dying in the cold? You mean most of the people who use drugs that are homeless bums? You mean those people? Does this guy understand that the majority of people who use drugs suffer highly negative consequences? That there's very few people out there who are using heroin or other hard drugs of the type he's advocating you use that are actually stable, productive members of society? No, most of them are homeless bums, you idiot. Why do you think that is? Because most of them can't find the so-called work-life balance that you possess. By the way, homelessness might be in this guy's future. Oh, no, wait. He's a special case. He has tenure. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. As long as he shows up for his 5 hours a week or month of lessons, well, he didn't have to worry about losing his job. He can show up high. He can show up just like a bum. He can show up with his pants pulled down around his ankles like most of these black people walking around these days. Most of these thugs do. He can show up all disheveled, looking like shit, just sit there, do nothing, say nothing. That's it. And he still gets paid. What about the other people out there that don't have the privilege of your tenure? Do you really think they're going to be able to get through their life as a drug addict like you without eventually losing their job and ending up living in a cardboard box? Behind somebody's gas and sip, behind somebody's deli, huh, pal? The professor also acknowledges, however, that he does know what it feels like to go through withdrawal. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If I don't use drugs for a day or two, I start vomiting and having the shakes, and it feels like ants are crawling all over my whole body, and I'm getting bitten by 1,000,000 of them. Wow, what a wonderful existence you have. In his book, Hart states that he has had mild heroin withdrawal. Yeah, probably because he doesn't go very long without using it. By the way, isn't he admitting to being a criminal? Isn't using heroin illegal? Shouldn't he be getting arrested sometime, or at the very least fired from his job? I mean, I know he has tenure, but there has to be some kind of ethics violation that he has broken. There's got to be something. Some basis for them firing him. He can't do whatever he wants. Tenure isn't adamantium bulletproof armor, okay? It doesn't make you invulnerable as far as I know. Of course, he's a black guy, so even if there was some kind of pretext that they could find to fire him, they won't, because then they'll be called racist. Adding that he has gone through it more than once after using the drug. Well, shouldn't that tell you that's not good for you, pal? Well, I'll just take more heroin. It contributes to my work-life balance, after all. For no more than about 10 consecutive days at a time. This guy's got issues. So he's been off the drug for 10 days, went through the withdrawal, and then he just gets right back on it. Wow, what a fun roller coaster ride that sounds like. Oh, I spent 10 days hacking up my fucking lungs and feeling like total shit. And then I take some more heroin because, after I've withdrawn from it, that hit right after I withdrawn feels so fucking good. Oh, yeah, let's live like this fucking guy, yeah. 12 rules for life, this guy's book ain't, okay? Hart describes his withdrawal symptoms as similar to the flu. Chills, runny nose, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and says that they begin about 12 to 16 hours after his final dose. Oh, well, there's a solution to that. Just never go off the heroin. You'll be dead by 50. The professor added that for hours, his withdrawal symptoms would be so incapacitating that he couldn't sleep. And you're advocating this lifestyle for others in your shitty book, which is obviously a shitty book if you're advocating this for everyone. Fucking what an asshole. This guy teaches psychology. Oh, really? Well, why don't you turn that perceptive lens onto yourself, Mr. Drug Addict? No, I'm not going to do that. Then I wouldn't be able to advocate that other people do what I'm doing, because it sounds like a living hell. But going through withdrawal, oh, that contributes to a better work-life balance. Okay, pal. Yeah, the withdrawal symptoms have been so incapacitating that I couldn't sleep. How do you teach? I missed sleep one night, man. I'm a fucking mess. How are you doing your job? Poorly, I would guess. In dealing with his own withdrawal symptoms, Hart says that he crushes up a bit of sedative and knocks himself out for several hours until the pain subsides and becomes more manageable, such as aches and a runny nose. Why would anybody want to live like this? Oh, it's just like having the flu. Yeah, except this is self-imposed. I mean, I don't walk around trying to get sick, yo. I don't walk around getting as close as possible that I can to sick people so that I can get sick, okay? Who would want to actually choose to go through these kind of symptoms? Somebody who has a lot of mental issues. I've noticed this, by the way, that a lot of people who get into psychology, they have mental problems. They have suffered in their life, and they generally get into it to try and be their own therapist, which is a really bad idea. It very rarely works because most people are not able to be unbiased and objective when it comes to their own issues. Most. Men used to be able to, but not anymore. They've become he-she's. Men have become too feminine. They've become too soy-boyed. Too much soy, too much estrogen, not enough testosterone. So, yeah. Good luck solving your own problems these days, even if you do take a bunch of psychology courses and get a degree in psychology. You're kidding yourself if you think you have tools to solve your own fucking problems that are obviously so deep-seated that his family is perfectly fine with him being a drug addict. And he apparently thinks it's such a great idea. He wrote a book telling other people that it's perfectly okay. In fact, it's great to be a drug addict. As he recounts stories about vomiting for 10 days. Oh, lovely. Yeah. The professor added that he hopes President Joe Biden will decriminalize heroin possession, a step toward a more open, legal drug use of all kinds. Hart also said he believes that many of the 60,000 plus drug overdoses across the U.S. every year could be eliminated with better education on the topic and a cleaner supply. I see. So his stance, his position on drugs is pretty self-serving. Which isn't surprising. It seems like his only concern is himself as he writes books telling people to, yeah, go ahead, become a drug addict. It's great. Our founding document guarantees us at least 3 birthrights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yeah, and his happiness is in chasing the dragon. Not something I would advocate, by the way. Not something he should advocate, too, if he was a good psychologist. Those ideas are profound. I don't see anything in there about using drugs. Well, that's my pathway to happiness. Maybe not a very good pathway, pal. Maybe not a very good pathway at all. Yeah, it's a path to the edge of a fucking cliff. It means that you can live your life as you choose. Well, that's true. You can. Doesn't mean you should. And it's nobody's business. Okay. I have to disagree with him there. It depends on what your job is, okay? I mean, if you are doing a job that has you educating the future leaders, makers, shapers of the country, the people that are going to run this great nation, well, once great nation that was America, not great anymore because of idiots like this, I think you have a responsibility not to teach your students to be drug addicts, okay? I think you have a responsibility not to peddle irresponsibility, and self-destructive tendencies as good and something that contributes to a healthy work-life balance. Again, you have tenure, pal. Most people are not going to be able to hold a job if they abuse heroin, you idiot. And it's nobody's business as long as you do not interfere with anybody else doing the same. But unfortunately, you are. You're potentially ruining the lives of hundreds, if not thousands of people when you teach them this type of irresponsible narrative. It's perfectly okay to use and abuse drugs, and you'll be able to have a work-life balance and you can still use. That's total bullshit, and we know that from history. In his book, Hart says that he wonders what is so wrong about indulging in a short, thin few lines by the fireplace at the end of the day. So he snorts it. That only rots my navel cavity. Kills me decades earlier. Fucks up my health. Makes me incapable of doing my job well, but I have tenure, so I don't have to do my job well. What's wrong with that? Yeah. And I'm creating a whole future generation of drug addicts. I don't see a problem. Yeah, of course you don't. You're a narcissist. You don't care about yourself. So there you go. And of course, these people are more likely to be socialists because they won't be able to hold jobs because they're fucking drug addicts. Most people don't have tenure. Even most professors don't have tenure. That's great. Yeah, yeah. So they'll need to depend on the state. They'll need to depend on the largesse of others. Pushing drug use as a way to transform America in a global utopia shithole that we want it to be. Oh, lovely. So there you go. There you go. Using heroin is not only fine, it is desirable in helping you create a better work-life balance, says this meathead. Oh, so I'm doing it? Don't you know? Yeah, you're going to be doing it until you ain't doing it, pal. It's going to catch up with you. I guarantee you as it rots your fucking brain and your body away. Eventually, you're not going to be able to do your job. Eventually, you're not going to be able to keep down your fucking lunch. Eventually, you're going to drop dead. But hey, it makes my work-life balance better, does it? Let me know what you think of this idiot's life philosophy. Is drug use a good thing? Would it make you a better father? A better worker at whatever job you do? Let me know in the comments section. And please like and subscribe to my BitChute channel if you have not already. bitchute.com/The Realist Philosopher. That's bitchute.com/The Realist Philosopher. And again, if you really like what I do, if you really like my messaging, if you really like the content I create, go check out my website, TheRealistPhilosopher.com. Scroll down to the bottom of the page and consider making a donation. I could really use your help.